black woman walks into an airport. She's the co-funder of the expansion, the primary investor behind the terminals, but no one recognizes her. She's blocked from the VIP lounge, talked down to, ignored. Then she makes a single phone call. Minutes later, $780 million, 0 cents in funding is frozen, and a deeply broken system is forced to listen. The question is, how did one black woman, calm, quiet, never raising her voice, bring an entire international airport to a halt? And why did powerful men suddenly fall silent when she stepped into the room? Where in the world are you listening from today? Drop it in the comments, and if this story moves you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Let's begin. She walked slowly, steady, unbothered. The tiled floor of the Mid-South Terminal VIP entrance glinted under the fluorescent lights, too clean to feel human. It was 8:12 a.m. on a Thursday, quiet enough for her heels to click without interruption. She reached into her coat pocket for a small leather badge, the same one she'd used last week in D.C. and the week before in Zurich. Simple, elegant, her initials in gold, AES. As she approached the VIP checkpoint, a uniformed man stepped into her path, tall, white, square-jawed. His nameplate read Simmons, but the radio at his shoulder buzzed with Zach. "Ma'am," he said, voice flat and firm, "this entrance is for priority passengers only." She smiled faintly. "And?" Zach glanced down at her loafers, then her coat, then her face. His eyes stayed just long enough to send a message. "You don't belong here." He didn't ask for ID. He didn't check the badge in her hand. Instead, he shifted his weight, arms crossed. "Unless you're staff or press, you'll need to use the main terminal entrance. This line is for upper-tier clients." She held out the badge. "This should suffice." He didn't look at it. Not even a glance. "I'm going to need something with a barcode," he said. "This is the stakeholder entrance," she replied. "No barcode is issued." He gave a short, dismissive laugh. "Sure. And I'm Beyoncé's driver." A chuckle crackled from his radio. Somewhere behind the glass, another agent was watching. A woman in a blue pantsuit whispered to her husband. He was already filming. Avery stood still. No defense, no protest, just stillness. Zach tapped his earpiece. "I need verification at the side door," he murmured. Then louder, "Ma'am, you'll need to step aside. You can't block this entrance." Avery looked at him directly. "Would you like to call your shift manager?" "I am the manager," he snapped. He wasn't, but the lie wasn't for her. It was for the growing audience. He waved another agent over, a younger woman with bright pink lipstick and too much perfume. She eyed Avery quickly, then pulled up a tablet. "Name?" she asked. Avery extended the badge. The woman frowned, not taking it. "I need a name, not just a card." "Avery Sinclair?" the woman typed. Pause. "I don't see anything." "That's unusual," Avery said calmly. Zach leaned in again. "Ma'am, do you work for the airline or are you with catering? You're not wearing a uniform." She raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like I carry food trays?" He ignored the question. "You're not on the access list. Are you sure you didn't get confused?" "No," she said, simply. Behind her, someone whispered loud enough to be heard, "She doesn't look like the IP." That was it, not a slur, not a shout, just a sentence soaked in judgment. Avery heard it, so did everyone else. She said nothing. The pink-lip agent shook her head. "There's no listing under that name for the Sinclair Group." "That's because Sinclair isn't a group," Avery replied. "It's a person." The space around them grew quieter, not truly silent, but thick with something else. Two TSA agents at a side post stopped talking. A barista peered over the counter. A young man in athletic gear raised his phone. No one said anything. No one stepped forward. But eyes were watching, cameras recording, and still not a single person intervened. Zach adjusted his belt. "You're delaying other passengers. You can wait in that corner until we sort it out." He gestured to a spot near the vending machines, as if she were a child in detention. Avery didn't move. "Ma'am," the pink-lipped agent added, "this isn't a place to linger. People here have flights to catch." "So do I." Zach laughed again. "Coach gates are on the other side of the terminal." That line earned a smirk from someone nearby. A cough disguised a chuckle. A woman pulled her child a little closer, like proximity to Avery might be contagious. Avery glanced toward the security camera above the doorway, paused, then stepped quietly toward the wall. She took out her phone and typed a single sentence. No one saw what she wrote. No one knew who received it. She didn't flinch, didn't frown, didn't pace. She just stood there, motionless. The kind of motionless that unsettles the arrogant. Behind the podium, Zach muttered something into his mic. His eyes darted left, then right. The other agent stepped back. She wasn't smiling anymore. Avery's phone buzzed once. She glanced down. One name. Maya. Personal. She answered. "Yes," she said softly. Pause, then barely audible. "Are you asking me to trigger Clause 4C? The question hung in the air. Avery exhaled, calm as a clock tower. "Prepare it." Then she hung up. Zach turned toward her again. "Ma'am, I'm asking one last time. Step away from this door. We'll call airport security if we have to." Avery didn't blink. "You already did." Behind him, a new voice cut in, firm, female, older. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" It was Gloria. Silver hair, long coat, rolling carry-on behind her. Her voice was soft, but her posture said she'd seen 1,000 injustices and never backed down from one. Zach tried to explain. "This woman's attempting to enter the VIP concourse without credentials." Gloria looked Avery up and down, then to Zach. "I know exactly who that woman is," she said. "And if you don't, son, you're about to find out." It started like a ripple, a shift in air pressure, a current no one could name but everyone could feel. Someone posted a video, just 12 seconds long. A woman, older, poised, being told to stand over there near the vending machines. No shouting, no resistance, just stillness, dignity. But the comments came quickly. "This don't sit right. Why they talking to her like that? She looked like she owned the place." By the time Gloria made it through screening, 3 other passengers had started filming. A boy in a hoodie whispered to his mom, "Is she famous?" A flight attendant walking by slowed, then paused, then kept walking, but turned her head once more. And the murmurs kept spreading. "Something's off. Why is she so calm? Who is she?" 3 gates down, a woman in a cranberry scarf, Denise, senior counsel at a tech firm, froze mid-step. She stared across the terminal toward the woman standing by the vending machines. Denise tilted her head. "I've seen her before." The memory came back suddenly, not vivid but certain. A keynote address at the Global Equity Forum last fall. The woman on stage had been dignified, brilliant, unapologetically black, and sharp enough to silence an entire ballroom with one sentence. She pulled out her phone and typed, "Avery Sinclair speech," into her browser. The photos loaded. Her mouth went dry. "Oh my God," she whispered. In a quiet office on the 47th floor of the Sinclair building in downtown Atlanta, Maya Torres leaned over her laptop. The screen blinked twice. A phrase appeared in red. Clause 4C, prepare for execution. Her fingers moved fast. 3 systems accessed, 1 firewall bypassed. She opened a secured folder marked Frostlock, a system designed for one purpose only: freeze corporate assets in less than 60 seconds. But only when she said so. She picked up her phone. The line buzzed. "She gave the signal," Maya said. On the other end, a man exhaled. "Then it's real." "Yes," Maya answered. "It's about to begin." Back at the terminal, Zach couldn't explain it. Something about her presence, her stillness, the complete lack of fear. It wasn't defiance, not rebellion, it was something worse. Confidence. Like she'd already won and just hadn't told him yet. He felt himself shrinking, and that made him angry. He waved down another officer. "Get back up, I want her escorted." The officer hesitated. "She's not doing anything," Zach snapped. "She's obstructing." But even his voice didn't carry right anymore. Something was shifting. The hallway felt colder. He looked at her again. She hadn't moved, but her eyes, they made him nervous. Gloria stood quietly now, just a few feet away. She had stopped rolling her suitcase, stopped breathing almost. She was remembering. 3 years ago. Civic Auditorium. The woman on stage. The speech about reclaiming black wealth. The one line that had made the entire room lean forward. If they won't give you a seat at the table, fund the table, build the table, own the building it sits in. And now, that woman was standing by a vending machine being told she didn't belong. Gloria's throat tightened. This wasn't just any passenger. This was Avery Elaine Sinclair. And suddenly, everyone around her could feel it too, though they didn't know why. The hairs on their arms stood up, a chill moved through the terminal, and somewhere behind tinted glass and bureaucratic arrogance, a system had begun to tremble. Avery unlocked her phone. There was no hesitation, no double check. She tapped a name at the top of her favorites. Kinte HQ, secure line. It rang once, then connected. A soft voice answered. "Maya." "Ma'am?" Avery didn't blink. "Seal it." Maya's voice caught. "Are you certain?" Avery's eyes moved to Zach, who was now half shouting at another agent, waving his arms like a man whose leash was unraveling. Then to the digital screen above the terminal, Mid-South Terminal, flight traffic 17, departures pending. She looked back down. "I said, seal it." At exactly 8:27 a.m., 2 phones rang. One in a corner office on the 16th floor of Crescent Bank HQ, just 4 blocks from the terminal. One in the leather briefcase of Amanda Clay, Director of State Infrastructure Operations, en route to Gate 9. Both screens lit up in red. Alert, Cape funding. Frostlock initiated. Asset class, transport. Pending override. Amanda stared at the screen. What the hell? The man beside her, a logistics advisor, turned pale. At Crescent Bank, Carl Dupree stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee. His assistant froze. "Sir?" Carl didn't respond. His eyes were on the number glowing at the top of the screen. Frostlock code 4 Sinclair. Carl Dupree didn't scare easily. He managed $2,800,000,000, 0 cents in transportation assets. Knew every mayor by first name, had lunch with senators. But he knew what Clause 4C meant. It meant $780 million. Locked, not paused, frozen. And only one person could activate that clause without board consensus. He grabbed his desk phone, dialed the direct line manually, not trusting email. It rang once. Then a voice answered. "Carl." "Avery?" he said quickly. "Talk to me. What happened?" A pause. He could hear the quiet buzz of an airport behind her. Then she spoke. "It's already in motion." Carl blinked. Wait, you triggered Frostlock? Without board review?" Her tone never changed. "They denied me access." "Access to what?" "To what I built." He rubbed his temples. "Avery, do you know how this looks?" She didn't answer that. Just 4 more words. "I'm not finished yet." Click. She hung up. Back at the terminal, someone shouted, "Yo!" "That's her." "Who?" another asked. "That's Avery Sinclair." The name moved fast. Within seconds it echoed down the terminal like wind in a canyon. Avery Sinclair. Avery Elaine Sinclair. Kinte's Equity Sinclair. The woman in the cranberry scarf pulled up a YouTube clip on her phone. Avery's speech at the Equity Summit. People gathered around her to watch. On TikTok, the videos under hashtag Avery Sinclair began to spike. Views tripled in 15 minutes. And Traveler Eyes posted, "This is wild. She just made one phone call. Whole airport funding locked. Watch this." Inside the TSA security room, an agent looked at his monitor, blinked, and whispered, "We stopped her?" Gloria, still standing close, said nothing. She just smiled. Because now they knew. Two agents approached from the right. Not security, not police. Just the kind with clipboards and too much confidence. They wore badges that read, Operations Liaison, the polite face of removal. "Ma'am," one said, "we'd like to invite you to a private room to resolve this." Avery didn't move. "You mean detain me?" The younger one blinked. "Not detain, just de-escalate." She tilted her head. Interesting choice of words. "Who's escalating?" No answer. They didn't touch her. Something about her posture said, "Don't." They led her down a quiet hallway, past Gate 14, past the employee-only door with the keypad, into a gray room that smelled like old coffee and stress. The Passenger Services Review Unit, unofficially known as the holding room. Fluorescent lights buzzed. A broken printer blinked red in the corner. A poster on the wall read, "We value your feedback." Avery sat, no cuffs, no threats, just tension. Across from her, a manager named Devlin straightened his lanyard. His voice was firm, too rehearsed. "Sinclair, we're investigating a disruption at the VIP access point. Until we confirm your credentials, we ask that you remain here." Avery said nothing. She opened her bag slowly, unclipped a black leather folder, set it on the table. Devlin frowned. "What is that?" She flipped the folder open. The first page had one sentence, bold. Partnership agreement between Mid-South Infrastructure Authority and Kinte Equity Holdings. Devlin blinked. She turned to the next page. Her name, her signature, her ownership percentage, 18.2%. She didn't speak. She just let it sit there. Devlin swallowed hard. "Where did you get this?" "I wrote it." She placed a second document beside it. It was marked Frostlock Provision Clause 4C, Access and Retaliation Protocol. Devlin leaned forward, then back again. He tapped his earpiece. "Ah?" "I need legal down here now." Avery gently tapped a specific line on the document. "If any representative of Kinte Equity is denied access to stakeholder-approved zones within property governed by Mid-South Authority, and such denial is unprovoked and unsupported by formal security threat documentation, Kinte Holdings reserves the right to initiate immediate freeze of funding through Clause 4C. No prior notice required. Activation is final for 48 hours. Devlin looked up. "You can't." She didn't let him finish. "I already did," he stammered. "This wasn't personal." "It never is," she said, voice quiet. "But systemic bias never is. It hides in rules, in uniforms, in tone." He opened his mouth, closed it again. She took out a third sheet, a list of authorized stakeholders with unrestricted access. Her name sat at 2. The door opened. A woman entered. Sharp suit, tablet in hand, breath shallow. Her badge read, Operations Director. "Miss Sinclair," she said carefully, "we've confirmed everything." Devlin turned to her. "Wait, she's a principal investor," the woman cut in. "She holds more access than anyone in this terminal, including us." Devlin sat down, hard. The director faced Avery. "Would you like to return to the VIP lounge?" Avery looked at her, steady. "No." The director blinked. "I'd like to speak with your CEO," Avery continued, "and your legal department, and the Department of Transportation, if they're free." Pause. "And I'd like a table, somewhere quiet. I have a statement to write." The woman nodded quickly. "I'll make arrangements." As she left, Devlin turned to Avery, eyes wide. "You froze our funding." Avery didn't look at him. She was already typing. In a glass-walled office 10 stories above the main terminal, Brian Kessler, CEO of Mid-South Infrastructure Authority, dropped his phone. It hit the floor with a clack that made his assistant flinch. "What? What did she just do?" he stammered. Across the desk, his deputy stared at the screen. The words weren't blinking, but they may as well have been on fire. Frostlock confirmed. $780.00 sent funding hold. Reason: obstruction of equity stakeholder access. Authorized by Avery Elaine Sinclair. Brian grabbed the back of his chair like it might run away. "That clause wasn't supposed to be real," he whispered. His deputy didn't answer. Because it was. Downtown, in a building lined with marble and old decisions, the mayor's office lit up. Chief of Staff Marissa Clay threw open the door to the inner chamber. "Sir, you need to see this." The mayor, Kenneth B. Holloway, glanced up. "Who's Avery Sinclair?" Marissa didn't answer. She just passed him the tablet. He stared at the screen, read the words twice, then picked up the phone. "Get the DOT, Finance, and Ethics, boss, and someone tell Carl Dupree to stop sweating and start talking." At a small, cluttered desk inside the Courier-Herald newsroom, senior reporter Michelle Graham clicked replay on a TikTok clip. She watched a woman stand still while men tried to remove her. The caption read, "Black woman blocked from VIP lounge. One call later, $780.00, M frozen." Watch the stare. Michelle narrowed her eyes. She knew that stare. She'd seen it at a Senate roundtable, a think tank in Geneva, a closed-door committee hearing in Atlanta. "That's Sinclair," she muttered. She reached for her notebook and dialed the first of 12 sources. Across Mid-South's internal servers, an email zipped through inboxes. Subject: Code Red. Management: Sinclair lockdown. Priority: critical. Action: legal and PR units to convene immediately. Inside the HR hallway, the lights flickered. Down in finance, 3 analysts stared at frozen dashboards. In operations, a junior coordinator whispered, "Do we unfreeze it?" "No," someone answered. "We don't have clearance." "Who does?" Silence. Then, "She does." Back in the small gray room, Avery sat calmly, laptop open, typing. No press conference, no camera crew, just her and a document titled Public Statement on Access, on Power, on Silence. She wrote slowly, not because she needed time, but because power, when it's real, doesn't rush. There was a knock. A staffer entered, red-faced. "Miss Sinclair? The CEO of Mid-South is on the line. He's asking to speak directly." She didn't look up. Let him wait. It was 5 years back, same city, different table. The meeting room was cold, not from the AC, but from the way the men looked at her, like she was someone's assistant who sat down by mistake. Avery had pitched a full proposal: diversify regional transport by redirecting public-private funds into long-term black-led infrastructure equity. She spoke for 9 minutes. They listened for 3. Then someone cleared his throat and said, "Interesting idea, maybe in 5 or 10 years." The word "maybe" landed sharp. They didn't look at her after that. They looked through her and moved on. Carl Dupree had once been proud of that moment. Afterward, in the elevator, he'd chuckled to his associate. "Ms. Maybe," he'd said, "all heart, no capital." He thought it was clever. Thought it was harmless now. In his office, sweating through his collar, Carl stared at a frozen funding screen and whispered, "M. Sinclair." His assistant stepped in. "She's requested the clause be honored, no exemptions." He nodded, then sat down hard. Because now she was the capital. Even then, Avery had known not to shout. She didn't argue when they ignored her slides. Didn't flinch when they smiled politely then talked over her. She had closed her laptop quietly, tucked her notes away, said thank you for your time, then walked out. They hadn't even remembered to validate her parking. She paid it herself, with coins from her glove compartment. That night she wrote a single line in her journal. Let them forget me. I will not forget this room. Every boardroom now had one name on their mind, Sinclair. The woman whose quiet proposal had once been shelved. The same woman now held the strings to their funding. A senator's aide called asking, how deep is she in? A partner at Grady and Linwood Legal whispered, we offered her an internship, she declined. An airport executive muttered, well, remember, she wore flats. Never interrupted. And now she didn't need to interrupt. She was the agenda. She stepped into the meeting suite at Gate 4. 9 men, 2 women, 4 lawyers, 1 federal observer, all standing. No one spoke first. Avery sat, then looked up. This will be brief, she said. No one interrupted. She opened her laptop, paused, and smiled, not cruelly but completely, because for the first time in this building, they were finally ready to listen. The meeting room was silent. Avery glanced at her watch. It's been 9 hours, she said, not looking up. 39 to go. A man in a navy blazer cleared his throat. You mean before the freeze lifts? She smiled faintly. No, before it becomes permanent. Someone shifted in their chair. One tap on her phone and the timer appeared on the shared screen. Frostlock active, 38, Hearst 57 min remaining. No threats, just numbers. It wasn't the money. Well, it was, but not just that. They were afraid of headlines, afraid of being on camera explaining why this woman was denied entry into a building she co-funded. Afraid of the optics, the questions, the audits, afraid their children would ask, you were in that room? Carl Dupree wiped his forehead again. The mayor's liaison hadn't spoken once. The word no one said, but all of them felt, was liability. Avery clicked the remote. One slide appeared. Bar graph, clean, sharp. Title, Regional Infrastructure Investment by Demographic Zone 2002 to 2022. It showed what she didn't need to say out loud. Black majority zones, 7.2%, white majority zones, 81.4%, mixed-use growth zones, 11.4%, but every one of them in majority white zip codes. She let it sit, let them squirm, then said softly, this is not personal, this is structural. She pulled out a folder, set it in the center of the table. In here are 3 things, she said. A restructuring plan for oversight, a mandatory audit timeline, and a path for community-led board representation. A pause. She looked around the room. This is not a negotiation. More silence. Carl finally found his voice. If we need time, Avery turned to him, expression unreadable. You've had 20 years. They didn't speak at first. They looked at each other, quietly, painfully, trying to read faces, trying to see who would fold first. One man opened his mouth, then closed it. Another rubbed his temple. Finally, a voice from the corner, one of the city attorneys, voice low, honest. She's not bluffing. That's when the room shifted. Everyone turned to face her. And Avery didn't say a word. She didn't need to, because they finally understood what kind of meeting this really was. Before the boardrooms, before the keynote speeches and investment clauses, there was a 1-bedroom apartment off Glenwood Avenue. It sat above a barber shop with a window that faced the freeway. On weekends, Avery and her mama would sit on the couch with chipped arms and name the cars as they passed, not by make or model, but by who might be driving them. That's a school teacher from Memphis. That one's headed to Baton Rouge bringing somebody home, and when the new highway sign went up, naming it after a governor who'd never visited the neighborhood, her mama shook her head. One day, they'll name one for you. Avery had just laughed, but she remembered. The call came at 4:13 a.m. Washington, D.C. Avery was in a lobby waiting for a midnight strategy session with transportation subcommittee staffers. The voice on the other end cracked, "She's gone, baby. In her sleep." She had no words. No suitcase packed, no flight fast enough. The funeral was Friday. She arrived Saturday night, alone. The house was already quiet. There were no more casseroles, no guests. Just her mother's empty bedroom, the scent of eucalyptus on the pillow. Avery sat on the bed and whispered, "I'm sorry I wasn't here." No one answered. Avery stepped. She hadn't listened to it in 3 years, but tonight, after the meeting, she opened the audio file again. Her mother's voice came through, warm, cracking slightly like a song remembered. "Hi, baby. Just calling to say, I saw you on that panel today. You look so sure, so strong." A pause. "I know sometimes you feel like you're fighting the whole damn world, but don't forget who you come from. I see you, even when I'm not around. I see you." Another pause, soft laughter. "You don't owe anybody softness. Just make sure you still have it somewhere. Love you. Always." Then, Avery held the phone to her chest for a long time. The kitchen light was yellow, flickering. They stood by the stove, stirring something that didn't need stirring, just so they didn't have to look each other in the eye. Avery had been offered a job at a firm that wanted her for appearances only. She'd almost said yes. Mama stirred once more, then said, "Don't let them shrink you down to fit their table." She turned, hand on Avery's cheek. "You were born too wide for small seats." Avery had nodded. Didn't cry then, but she never forgot it. Now, years later, in a temporary conference suite on the second floor of Mid-South Terminal, Avery sat alone, laptop open, cursor blinking. Her hands rested still over the keyboard, not frozen, just gathering. She could hear the buzz outside, press waiting, officials murmuring, a system holding its breath. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a tiny bronze keychain shaped like a freeway sign. It read, "Elaine Sinclair Expressway." Not official, not real, but her mama had it made. She placed it beside the laptop, then whispered, so softly only the walls could hear, "I kept my word, Mama." Then she began to type. They gathered near Gate 12, not because it was on the schedule, but because everyone had heard. She's about to speak. The press arrived first, then staffers with badges half-tucked pretending they had official reasons to stand there, flight attendants on break, baggage workers still in neon vests, older black women with purses clutched at their side watching silently. And from upstairs, behind tinted glass, the executives watched too, waiting, dreading, and listening. Avery stood behind a modest podium, nothing flashy. She didn't clear her throat, didn't wait for silence. She just began. "I was told this morning I didn't belong here." Pause. And they were right. I don't belong in a system designed to exclude, then pretend it never happened. Her voice didn't rise, but it carried. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here for accountability. Clicking keyboards fell quiet. I will not allow public infrastructure to be run by private arrogance. Not with my name, not with my capital, not with my silence. She held up one sheet of paper. This is a request for structural reform, not a suggestion. Pause. If those terms are not met by the close of business tomorrow, the freeze remains. She looked into the cameras. I didn't pull $780 million 0 cents to prove a point. I did it to prove a principle. A pause longer than the rest. Then she said simply, "You do not get to profit off black communities and then lock them out of the room." She reached for a second document. This is the charter for the EquiBuild Trust, a new fund that will invest in cities ready to share power, not just profits. A few gasps. She nodded slowly. If this airport chooses to meet those terms, we'll talk. If not, we will build somewhere else. She looked into the crowd. This is not about vengeance. It's about vision. A beat. And then, I will no longer invest in silence. She stepped back from the podium. No music, no closing statement, just stillness. For a moment, no one moved. Then, a sound. Clap. A single clap from a woman near the back, elderly, dignified, hat tilted just so. She clapped again and again. Then others joined. A slow rising sound, not roaring, not rushed, but righteous. Applause that didn't beg for approval. It claimed space. Up in the control room, a man leaned over the console and whispered, "She didn't just speak." Pause. She reset the entire terminal. An assistant caught up to her, breathless. "Miss Sinclair, they've reopened the VIP suite. Fresh fruit, champagne, full privacy." Avery smiled, gentle and unimpressed. "No, thank you." The woman blinked. "Would you like a car brought around?" "No." Avery adjusted the strap on her bag. "I'd like to walk." And just like that, she turned, heels clicking against tile, and began a slow, steady lap of the terminal. Not as a CEO, not as a shareholder, just as herself. Near Gate 7, she stopped. A janitor, maybe 65, was wiping a bench. He looked up. "Everything good today?" She nodded. "Getting better." He smiled. "Some days are like that." She moved on. At a charging station, a young black woman sat on the floor, laptop open, headphones in, designing something with fast fingers. Avery crouched beside her. "What are you building?" The girl looked up, startled, and grinned. "Transit maps. For a pitch." "Good," Avery said, standing. "Make them redraw the whole city." The girl blinked, then smiled back. By the gift shop, a little girl in red sneakers stood still, staring at the departure screen. Her mother stood nearby, phone in hand. But the girl? She was still, eyes big, as if the map of gates was the whole world waiting for her name. Avery knelt down, whispered, "They don't know it yet, but one day you'll own one of those." The girl looked at her, didn't smile, just nodded. The way little girls do when they believe you completely, then turned back to the screen. The board above read Flight 328 to Charlotte. On time. No one stood at the gate yet, just rows of empty chairs and the hum of far-off announcements. Avery sat, crossed her legs and exhaled. Not relief, not fatigue, just stillness. She pulled out a notepad, wrote 2 words, "Next city." That was all. No entourage, no press, just a woman waiting to leave a place she had changed forever. As boarding began, Avery stepped forward, scanned in, and walked through the jet bridge. No turning back, no wave. The door closed behind her. In the silence that followed, no announcement played, no plaque unveiled. But somewhere in that terminal, people sat straighter, listened better, and maybe, just maybe, one more little girl looked at the screens and thought, if she can walk through, maybe I can too. And so the gate closed, but something bigger had opened. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. This wasn't just about one woman. It was about every person who's ever been told, this space isn't for you, and who came back not to ask permission, but to set new terms. Real power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it walks quietly, remembering everything and forgiving nothing. Avery Sinclair didn't fight back with rage. She reshaped the room. She brought truth to a place built on silence. If this story touched something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. Give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started, and the next story might just be yours.